From the Way of the Mastery, and this is a group of channel messages from someone called Jeshua ben Joseph. Jeshua ben Joseph. And it comes through a group of sensitives, or we're not sure who they are, but the people who publish these works are the Shanti Christo Foundation. And so, let me read a little bit to you today. What am I committed to communicating? What will my creations express? What will my emotions convey to others? For what I seek to convey reveals the truth of myself to the world. You are, and this is the channeling. You are as God created you to be. You are an infinite focus of consciousness. Your very sense of existence is nothing more than a feedback loop, a feedback mechanism, so that you can witness the effects of the choices you make in the depth, very deep depth of your mind that rests right along with the mind of God. You are literally allowing thought, deliberate choices, and perhaps unconscious to bring forth the vibration of thought, vibration of creation, to communicate to the world in an attempt to experience communion with all life, with a friend, with a parent, with a child, with a beloved, with the clouds that pass through the sky, with the earth itself. So, we can say to ourselves, understand well then, the way of the heart requires that you allow yourself to rest into the simplicity of this truth. You can put your hand on your heart if you like. I am pure spirit, undefiled, unaffected by anything or anyone. I am given full power to choose and therefore to create my experiences as I would have it be. So we know not quite the I that is an egoic topic of the mind, where it is just one of your creations that comes along somewhere down the line. It is a very small part of the mind. We are speaking of the I of your pure spirit that knows it exists, and even though it does not know the time of its own creation. You are pure spirit, and therefore to know. I am only this, and in each moment, regardless of what I believe, I see, regardless of the feelings that arise in my awareness, I, and I alone, am wholly 100% responsible for them. No one has cause for them. No great force in the universe has made the perception well up within my consciousness. I have selected it. The way of the heart begins with accepting the simple truth that I am as God created me to be. Made in His image, I am a creator always. And so there you are. That's who we are. We are the creator of our universe. There you go. So, our speaker today is going to tell us a little bit more about spiritual self-discovery. She is a lady who's been with the teaching for a long time. She was the personal secretary and assistant to the teaching of the Inner Christ, one of the founders, and Myra McKeever. And she has been the office manager for a lot of years. And now she's back with us. And today, she's a leader teacher and an Inner Christ counselor. And today, she's speaking to us about spiritual self-discovery. Please help me welcome leader teacher, Inner Christ counselor, Jennifer Allen-Prather. She's very tall. It's not that, I'm kind of...
It's part of my spiritual growth.
Oh.
Oh. Well, it's an honor to be here today. It's always an honor. it's a special honor today because we are here now and this is the most important moment. Spiritual self-discovery, that's a big topic. Well, I quote from the Lamsa Interpretation Bible, which George Lamsa interpreted the Bible from the ancient Aramaic, which was considered to be the original language of the Bible. And from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Do not imitate the way of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, that you may discern what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. By the renewing of your minds. So what is spirituality? Spirituality encompasses many beliefs and practices, and they connect each person who's seeking God, or we call it our inner Christ here at the teaching. It provides a framework for self-discovery by offering guidance and inspiration and reflective practices that can lead to profound personal growth. And the teaching of the inner Christ does that. Self-discovery, on the other hand, is deeply personal. And it's a transformative process. It allows us to explore our true nature, our purpose in life, and our innermost desires. Think of it, we have that within us. A lot of people are seeking it outside of them. They're seeking their desires. They're seeking somebody else to tell them what to do or what they should do, rather than going within their authentic self into the divine to gain that access of guidance and wisdom. Babies, it is said, are closest to the spiritual realm because they have that innocence. They have that that ability to see things that we cannot see. Haven't you seen babies looking up at the ceiling sometimes? You know, smiling. We could say they have gas, and they could. But I choose to believe that they can see spirit because they are closer to God. And as they get older, they seem to take on the ways of the world around them, whether it be from their parents or from school, and they kind of drift away. They kind of forget a little bit about that. And they feel more separated from spirit. They don't know that, but that's how they feel. So this is our basic textbook, Being in Christ. It's the inner sensitivity, inner intuitional training course that we have here at the Teaching of the Inner Christ. This is our basic textbook. It's written by Ann and Peter Meyer, our co-founders of the Teaching of the Inner Christ. There's a lot of wisdom here. And on page 49 is the chapter entitled Piercing the Psychic Barrier. Now, what is the psychic barrier, you might ask? Well, we call it the facade barrier. It's a subconscious mind belief. It encompasses beliefs in the subconscious mind that limit us, that tell us that we can't do things, that we're not good enough, that we're not tall enough, we're not short enough, we're not this, we're not that. It's those limiting beliefs of separation. It's not given to us from God. We have free choice to think as we choose. So these are beliefs that we have obtained to help separate. We don't really separate from God, but it separates our conscious contact with God within. And so, under the paragraph, what is the psychic barrier? It says, the subconscious mind, the facade barrier, in the subconscious mind separates the inner person from the outer. And so, as we said before, when most people know so little of their own inner self, that when they meet it for the first time, they think it's another person. Reverend Mary Ann was talking to us as she was explaining the teaching of the inner Christ earlier, that this inner self, it's a part of us, and we can gain conscious contact with it through the teaching of the inner Christ, through this course, Inner Sensitivity. And we can actually get that wisdom and know it's coming from the highest part of us. And so, when we think it's another person because it's someone so high in our consciousness, but it's a part of us. And I go on, it says, beyond the psychic barrier is the real person, who is a spiritual being of perfection and beauty. Do you believe that? Think about it. Outside the barrier is the false idea of the person, the one that looks in the mirror and goes, oh, look at those wrinkles. Oh, I don't like that. That's not the real us. So the personality which they show to the world, that's not the real us. What it is that separates us from our true being, and how did this separation come to be? The psychic barrier was not designed into us by our Creator. No. It's a wall of thought created by humans. It's composed of matted layers of crystallized belief. You can just see these matted layers, that's keeping us from our good. Crystallized belief in the separation of the human from God, and its resultant fears, judgment, guilt, and confusion. It's said that thoughts are things, and thus the psychic barrier, though composed only of thought, seems as difficult to penetrate as a heavily closed door. We might say that the psychic barrier is a judgment barrier, quote unquote, created and reinforced by human judgments of good and evil, and the resulting fears. It's a reactive, protective barrier, for we humans are sometimes so comfortable and secure in our old habits of thinking and the healing, and that we resist the honest facing of our hidden fears and the healing of them. When we are guided through the psychic barrier by the inner Christ, we are given the power to realize the fallacy of it and go deeper to the real truth of our being. That's spiritual self-discovery. It's that being within us, that authentic self within us that has always been with us. And we can gain conscious contact with that self. So my own spiritual self-discovery started when I was with my parents, and they were Christian Scientists. And Christian Science is a wonderful religion, believing in there is no matter, there is only spirit. And that is true. But for a long time, I had a difficult time trying to accept that there wasn't any matter. That matter didn't matter. And so eventually, when my father passed away, I felt that I owed him to stay with Christian Science until he passed away, and then I went on my own quest. I wanted to find something that incorporated the earth, that we know it and see it, even though it may not be real, we still feel and touch it. It's still a part of our world and our inner being, the inner self, the inner world. The yin and the yang, the west and the east, whatever you wish to call it. And at first I found some really wonderful metaphysical churches, and I took their classes and got their certificates. The people were lovely, but there was something missing. There was something missing. But to go back, I need to go back just a moment. As I was growing up, I was in a very lovely childhood we could play during the day. My parents didn't have to worry about us being outside. And it was an idyllic childhood, it really was. We had little parties in each other's houses, and we skated, and we ran through the water sprinklers, and I played with the worms in the gutters when it rained, and we played with our cats and our dogs and had a great time. And then I seemingly lost my innocence in school. There were some bullies, and I believed that I wasn't good enough, and so they bullied me. I lost my closeness to God. I felt very low in confidence. And so that's why I started searching after my dad passed. I started searching to be one again with God. I was searching for that childhood again, that feeling of safety, of love, of non-judgment. So after I searched for a while, I did say that there was something missing. It was mostly very intellectual. It was all truth, and a lot of it based on truth seekers that I admired. However, I was led to a book called 10 Lessons in Woman Awareness by Anne Meyer. And it was a pretty racy book, I thought, at the time, but I was fascinated by it. And that's what led me, along with a young friend of mine who I hadn't seen for about a month, who seemed very depressed. And then after a month, I came back, I met her, and she was the happiest I've ever seen her. And I said, well, what did you do? How come you're so happy? Just a month ago, you were down and out and depressed. And she said, I found the teaching of the inner Christ. And I thought, that sounds familiar. Oh yeah, that's Anne P. Meyer's book. Yeah, that's part of the teaching of the inner Christ. So those two things brought me to the teaching of the inner Christ, where I blossomed because I found my authentic self when I made contact with my deep inner Christ. I broke that psychic barrier we were talking about earlier, that belief barrier, to allow my inner Christ to come through and guide me and love me and feed me all kinds of knowledge. I came back to God because TIC was a mixture of East and West, Yin and Yang. Dr. Ann Meyer McKeever, later on her name was McKeever, called it the dual life. Living the dual life, the inner and the outer, in harmony, authentically. So since coming to the teaching of the inner Christ, I've grown in confidence because everybody seems so non-judgmental here. There's no judgment. I learned that I've never been separated from God. And I've learned that God desires only the best for me. I'm also learning to think big and accept my good. Before I would go, oh, poo-poo, no. No, I don't need that. No, you don't need to do that for me. No, if somebody says, I want to take you to lunch. Okay. Okay. I want to buy you a car. Okay. I want to provide a house for you. Okay. So I don't deny my good anymore. I've learned to think big. You might say I'm a late bloomer. You know, a lot of the people in TIC who are in my vintage have retired from the teaching. I just became a leader teacher and inner Christ counselor a few years ago. But you know, better late than never, I say. It certainly made me happy. And best of all, the best thing that's come out of this is my joy and being of service and teaching. That's my purpose. I found my purpose. To teach and to help and to serve. So what can you do on your journey of spiritual self-discovery? What can you do? You might ask, and I might have some answers. You can take the Teaching of the Inner Christ classes, the basic course of inner sensitivity, self-mastery, the next class, prayer therapy 1, prayer therapy 2, learning how to pray for yourself and others. There's a lot you can do at the Teaching of the Inner Christ. Come to our Truth Day Tuesday. Get a little taste of that. Meditate on your purpose. That's a good one. Meditate on your purpose. You may have asked yourself many times, well, what is my purpose? Well, if you meditate on it enough, you'll find out. Ask your inner Christ. Even if you don't know the name of your inner Christ, just say, Dear inner Christ, teach me, what is my purpose? You may already know. A lot of people don't. But then you can say, well, what brings me joy? And that's close to your purpose, and it could be your purpose. Be open to new experiences. Be open to, well, maybe not bungee jumping, but maybe going to a party or volunteering somewhere in a food kitchen. Be open to new experiences. And create a ritual or rituals into your daily life, such as setting up an altar with your favorite spiritual items, and talk with your inner Christ as you would your best friend there. Leave fresh flowers or just send love there. This will create an energy of peace, harmony, and love when you meditate. Great vibration. And beauty always does that. Cultivate gratitude. Every day I am grateful. I am grateful for where I'm living. I'm grateful for my transportation. I'm grateful for the food I eat. Every day I find something to be grateful for, and my coffers are full. I am a truly abundant and blessed person. That's very important. Write it down. Write down what you're grateful for every day. Each person's spiritual journey is a highly personal and subjective experience. The inner Christ can be of great assistance to help each one connect to their inner wisdom and be a catalyst for their spiritual growth. So the teaching of the inner Christ can be a catalyst for our spiritual growth. I'm a witness to that. Ultimately, spiritual self-discovery is about uncovering your authentic self, embracing your uniqueness, and living a life that aligns with your deepest values and desires. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. So again, from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Do not imitate the way of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, that you may discern what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Thank you, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And now we have a chance to support the teaching of the inner Christ. We find in Malachi 3:10, bring all gifts, all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. And try me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you such a blessing that there will not be room enough to receive it. So there's the promise. As we give, so we receive. And we thank you for your support of the teaching of the inner Christ by your love donations as you choose. And you can do that through our website, teachingoftheinnerchrist.org. And if you look, when you get our homepage, if you look up from the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little donate button. And that's how you can donate to the teaching of the inner Christ if you so choose. Or you can do it by coming into the center, or you can mail it to the center, the teaching of the inner Christ, 1114 North 2nd Street, El Cajon, that's spelled ELCAJON, California, 92021. And we give great thanks for your support of our teaching. And now